What's up, guys? Welcome back to Flowvilla number 2. For those of you who have been living under a rock and don't know what this is the newest Reaper Doc slash King MX collaboration effort. And the original Flowvilla, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think it's probably one of the most downloaded and enjoyed fully custom paid tracks that is on the game. And for example, Rusper very much likes the original Flowvilla, so I'm interested to see his thoughts on this one as well. And I just want to spin some laps on here today, really. But from the looks of things, the track layout is very similar. It might actually be identical to the original version, but it's now in reverse. So on the original, you'd hit the finish line this way, hook a left, hit a step up, then go down to the right, back across the start, and then do a whole bunch of rhythms. So it looks very similar, but the other way around. The jumps themselves do look to have been messed around with quite a bit. So it's not like he's just flipped the direction of everything. So it's not just like a copy and paste, for example. But what I've noticed just flying around here, compared to the first one, I don't know if it's just like the strength of the norms or whatever, but the actual like terrain looks a lot more like 3D. Like, it looks a lot better than the original. So really good stuff. And I think King's tracks, they definitely appeal to the more casual slash intermediate level players in this game. They're a lot easier just to hop on and spin some laps on, which a good, I'd say like 95% of the community want to do. They don't want to have to sit there grinding for hours and hours. So very good. These released another Flowvilla for us all to enjoy. I'm going to try and do it some justice today. And here I am over in the pits. I am going to be riding today. You might think it's a Cowie. It's not. It's going to be a Cowie for FXR purposes, but more on that in the future. This is actually the Husky 450. So I'm still not on the KTM. I would say the Husky is probably still one of the meta-ish bikes. It's still quite good. But I just slapped on last year's Supercross setup and tried it out, and there was just a level of comfortability that I really enjoyed. So I'm hoping that that does me well throughout SMX. So without further ado, let's spin some laps, and I hope you enjoy. So you know how basically at least once a week I talk about how messed up my sleep schedule is and I'm going to bed at like 4 AM, so on and so forth. Well, it's kind of the opposite way around this time, but to the point where I'm really struggling to sleep and I don't know why. So I was very tired last night. I was so tired that I went to bed at 10 PM, which is a very normal, I think, sleep time for most of the human race, and fell asleep. And I woke up at 2 AM, so after literally just 4 hours of sleeping. I then proceeded to lay in bed between 2 AM and 6 AM, so for 4 hours, trying to get back to sleep again, while still pretty damn tired, and haven't been able to. So it's now 6:30, and I thought, you know what, why not just try and be a bit productive and record a video or two, instead of just being lazy. But I don't understand it, because this has happened to me the last couple of nights, where I've gone to bed at a very reasonable time whilst being really tired, and then waking up at literally 2 AM. Every time I check my clock as well, and it's around 2, maybe like 2:05, 2:10, and I'll still be really tired, but just can't get back to sleep again. Which then means going through to the next day, I am basically like hanging by 7 PM, where I'm so tired because I've been awake for a while, but then I try and push it off until a little bit later, so I'm not going to bed at 7. And I don't know why I'm struggling to sleep at the moment. I don't know if it's just too much screen time, where I've still been grinding a whole bunch of COD recently, trying to now do the zombies camo now that I've done Dark Matter and reached Master Prestige. No idea. It's not something that I've ever struggled with in the past, and yeah, I mean, I literally stare at a screen for a living. Always have done. Like, even going back to being an accountant before doing YouTube stuff. So I'm generally not sure. No idea. I might even go down the route of purchasing some like melatonin gummies or something. I remember back when I was younger, I used to have some melatonin now and then just to try and help me get to sleep. Oh my goodness, that is a hell of a turning double. Jesus Christ. But yeah, enough about my life and my problems. Let's actually get a flow going around Flowvilla and see how it rides. Now, the original Flowvilla was a very fast track, to the point where it was actually quite difficult to make up any time on people if you had a bad start at all. This one at the moment seems to be, whilst it is basically the same track layout but in reverse, I don't know if it's because he's added like little bits of rough here and there, or it's the way that some corners have a few more ruts than usual. It might even just be the way the jumps are built, but it seems a little bit more techy than the original one, which of course I'm always going to be a fan of. Is this a scrub jump again? It is indeed. So we got a scrub into a little double here, into a step down, And I checked up too hard on this jump last time, so I'm going to try and stretch it a little bit. Oh, don't land on that braking bump. Oh, that was close. By the way, dash pack, give yourself a big old pat on the back, sir. This model looks great. I know you didn't make the model itself, but for putting it all together and getting all like the shading and putting all the trick bits on it, like the get timer. I know it's got some fancy like shifting like lever and so on and so forth, and it looks really, really nice. And whilst it would be great if I could ride just the actual Cowie itself, you have to understand that from a casual perspective, a lot of the OEM bikes are very competitive to each other. But when you get into that top like 1%, did not mean to do that. When you get into that top 1% or so of riders, and you're searching just for them valuable tenths of a second per lap, and even more importantly in Supercross/SMX, where starts are a good 90% of your entire race, you really do need to be on the most powerful bike, if not at least like the second most powerful. And unfortunately, that just isn't the Cowie. The Cowie is much more of a like a smooth or like a slow and steady kind of bike, a lot more controllable. Just a lot easier to roll on the throttle with and just get around the track, whereas the Austrian bikes are more of like the race bikes that I think they'll always end up being the meta, regardless of what they do to all of the bikes in the game. If there is a bike that is just the fastest in terms of speed, the top guys will find a way of controlling that speed, or at least putting a setup on the bike to make it that speed manageable. Now, I've watched a fair few hot laps over the last couple of weeks, and I genuinely don't know where I'm losing a whole bunch of time. My only guess is that it's corner speed. So I watched, let's take Tyler, for example. Tyler won last year's Supercross Championship. He's going into this year with the #1 plate. If I had to guess before any rounds have even happened, I would probably just say that he's going to do it again. He seems very quick. And looking at lap times on, let's say, like Cleveland, for example, round 1 of the DDC series, I think he ran a low 1:15. And I watched the video, watched all the lines, and nothing looks special, if that makes sense. It all just looks like he's just done the normal stuff well. There's no huge lines that you're missing out on. And I've put a good bit of time into that track over the last 2-3 days or so. And I've had some laps that I was very, very happy with. Downsided every jump really well, scrubbed through rhythm sections really hard, getting everything perfect, absolutely blitzing the whoops. And I'll come across the line, and the best lap I've managed to do is a 1:16.7. So I'm still over a second off, and I don't know where that time comes from. I generally think it is just from corner speed. But having a look, it looks like they're doing a much better job than I at keeping that back end constantly tracking around the turn. And if that is set up or if that is technique, I'm not too sure yet. I have been slacking, I'll be honest. I mean, you boys know I haven't been playing bikes much at all. My time is up to just under 13 hours now in the last 2 weeks. And before, I want to say 2 days ago, it was only at 9 hours in the last 2 weeks, which is not really a hell of a lot of time if you're wanting to be competitive on the pro scene. You do have to spend a little bit more time and effort to do that. But I'll learn my lesson eventually. In my mind, I don't really see SMX as being too important. Like, my numbers are already locked in for next year in terms of like career numbers, and I am fully decided on running #3 now, which is going to be nice. Whack a big old #3. I'm going to be looking a little bit of Roman February, aren't I, with a #3 Cowie, but I think it will look quite nice. I'm going to try and go down like the Tomac-y route of having just the #3 filling up the entirety of the board rather than just a normal size one, just like a huge one that covers the whole thing. But yeah, I'm locked in with that. So SMX for me doesn't, whilst it would be nice to do well, it doesn't really mean anything. And I don't know, I haven't seen any announcements in terms of prizes or anything like that. I don't know if there are separate prizes for SMX at all. But the seasons are done. SMX in my mind is just a little bit of practice for the 2025 Supercross season, which you also have like the DDC series to help prepare for. Why do I keep doing accidental 360s? I'm trying to just chuck the bike sideways, but the muscle memory hasn't taken over yet. Where the back end is a little bit slippier, it obviously spins around a lot more. Can I hit a cheeky little whoppo coming into this corner? Ooh, oh, hang on. You can definitely step to that inside line there. Let's turn around and try that again. Oh, not that too hard. Yeah, the tracks, this is definitely more technical than the first one. Just with the little bits of rough here and there. So if I send it, way too far. Survive. Survive, please. Oh! Nope. Definitely think a lot of these jumps are very 450 scaled, but I do think if you rode a 250 around here well, you could definitely still get over all these jumps. I mean, most of the jumps, very 250 will no problem, but there's one or two sections where there's like a high line, a high line and a low line, sorry, get my words all mixed up, where if you want to go for that high line and send the big jump, I think it's only really doable on the 450. Oh, got to survive up on the peg, so I'm just going to tiptoe my way over the top of that without trying to wad myself. I don't know if anybody is up to date on all of the Motocross The Game news as of recently, but last night I saw, well, say last night, yesterday during the day, there was a update regarding the erode / deformation in the game, and some of the screenshots that they've posted in there, I'm telling you now, if that is just built from in-game erode only and there's no pre-made ruts at play in that, it's actually breathtaking. Like, it looks so realistic, it's crazy. And all these seasons, they just get me more and more excited for the game overall. And just to speak on that as well at the moment, because I've seen a lot of people, that some people were like all in, you know, like really hyped and want it to do well, and then I see other people just doubting and hating straight away, saying it's not going to be better than this or that, it's going to be arcadey. And I was kind of talking to Charlie about this earlier, and the way I look at it is, so all of the very hardcore MX Simulator and MX Bikes fans that probably don't want it to do well and are probably doubting it, do you think, the best way of wording this, in another 10 or 20 years time, are you still going to want to be playing sim or bikes? Surely there is going to come a time in your lifetimes where a game, any game, motocross game, will come along and will be better than MX Simulator or MX Bikes. That's just the way the world works. It's like something will happen. It's not a case of, you know, in another 50 years, you're going to be playing a 75-year-old, well, say a 65-year-old MX Bikes game or MX Simulator game and a 60-year-old MX Bikes game. It's just not feasible. It's not going to work that way. So when there is going to be a game that's going to come along and be better, why not just choose to believe that it's this one and it's happening, rather than wanting it to fail or just being like really against it anyway? If it was like a random games company, for example, like if anyone's seen footage of the new MXGP game, oh my goodness, does it look absolutely horrendous. I've not seen a single positive comment about that. Then yeah, I get it. But when it comes from people that not only have been in the industry for years and years and years, but have also dedicated years of their lives and thousands of hours of time to keeping MX Simulator alive, to keeping MX Bikes alive, for them to then be branching out and doing their own thing, it's not like you're trusting people that don't have the community's interests in mind, because they've had the community's interest in mind for God knows how many years now. I mean, just shooting from the dome, for example, like Checkers, who's a big part of it all, God knows how many tracks that man made for MX Simulator, like putting a lot of time and effort on the RF side of things as well, with all the hosting. Like, I remember years and years and years ago sitting down just watching a Checkers live stream where he was making, I think it was one of the years of Red Bud track, just watching him do his magic with Photoshop. It was really cool to see. And obviously with his involvement with race tech and having real life suspension data and all that being used in game will be really helpful. Having someone like Nico, for example. Nico ran MyMXB for God knows how long, which gives all of the MX Bikes players a website in order to host their races through. He went out of his way and used like a lot of his own money to get a full-on LAN event set up and sorted out for people, where I never thought I would have like been in a position to be flown out and have all expenses paid for me and go and play a video game for a weekend. Like, very, very cool stuff as well there. See, Reaper is Reaper. Like, Reaper loves everybody. Obviously, very nice guy. I don't think he'd go out of his way to do anybody wrong on purpose either. There's a whole more bunch of people behind the scenes that probably, I don't know if they don't want to be named or if it's just a point where it doesn't matter who they are, but I am very optimistic about it. I really am. And I only see it as a net positive. You know, as a motocross fan in general, not even just a motocross gaming fan, but a motocross fan in general, it will be nice to get something that is built on modern systems and can handle what we want it to handle. I imagine it's almost like if you're riding in real life and maybe you've got a very old, clapped out year 2000 two-stroke, there's only so much you can do. This is trying to use an analogy here of comparing like MX Sim and MX bikes. So they are built on very, very old game engines, and they are very limited in what you can do to them. In regards to if you have a very, very old motocross bike, you can put upgrades on it, you can make it look nice, but at the end of the day, there is a limiting factor to that bike. Whereas if you then go out and build a game on Unreal Engine, for example, a whole, like all singing, all dancing, flashing lights system that can handle a lot more, it's like you going out and buying a brand new like 2025 KTM 450 and then putting all of your upgrades on it and making it look nice. And there's different levels to it. So I am optimistic in it. I think it'll be well. And if it doesn't work out, at the end of the day, what are we losing? You know, if it works out, great, you get a new amazing game to play. If it doesn't work out, you carry on playing what you've been playing anyway, and it really doesn't matter. And I know people are probably going to comment, yeah, but they're asking us to like pay money, blah blah blah. They're not asking you to pay money for the game. That's kind of not what Kickstarter is about. Kickstarter is more, if you have some spare money and you want to help donate to something to see it come to fruition and improve, then you can do so. And then one of the rewards for doing that is a copy of the game. Kickstarter itself, you shouldn't, let's say you're someone that spends like, I don't know, I can't remember all of the price points off the top of my head. If you're spending $500 on it because you want this, that and the other in-game rewards, you shouldn't be expecting $500 worth of monetary value in return, because that's not what Kickstarter is. If you kind of fall in that category, you are much better off waiting until you can pre-order the game on Steam, because then if you don't like what you see or what you get, then you can refund it. Whereas obviously in Kickstarter you can't. And I think people get that confused. I think they just think Kickstarter is where you pre-order the game and that's that. So they're a bit scared to send any money that way without all of the trailers and all of the gameplay. And I agree. I definitely think that people should, if you're in a position where you don't have lots of spare income, you should definitely hold fire until you've seen gameplay and you know what you get into before sending any money to anybody. So just hold fire rather than complaining. I don't know. There's just a hell of a lot of negativity that I'm seeing for really no reason. I really don't understand it. I'm open to other people's opinions on it. I really am. But I feel like there's people who choose to be negative and see things in a bad way rather than just trying to be an open book and seeing what will happen. So fingers crossed. I hope it'll be good. And it's more so that it's cross-console, which is huge, means the community will be bigger than any game we've had before. Made by people that I certainly trust, so I think that's going to be good, and I think they'll have the community's best intentions at heart. And then it sounds like it's going to be a lot more of a true simulator than what we've had so far. Whether it turns out that way, we'll see. But for example, MX Simulator and MX Bikes, they both want to be simulator games, but then they've both got their arcadey aspects. Now, I'm not a big iRacing guy, so I can't attest to this, but they want to make this game a motocross iRacing, essentially. So on sim or bikes, is it realistic to be able to set a track marker down and hit the same first 2 or 3 corners 100 laps in a row until eventually you get it absolutely perfect and you set a heater? Probably not. You're allowed to go fast in real life, but there's consequences to doing that. You know, if you send something too hard, you hurt yourself. And there's no repercussions in a video game. So I'm very interested to see how they implement these sorts of things. And obviously, ideal world, if this game wasn't a thing, there's parts of sim that I would take and change, there's parts of bikes I would take and change, and then kind of merge the two together. But now this kind of project is a thing. I'm very excited. And what's quite interesting is seeing how much backing it's getting from a real world perspective as well. Seeing like so many professional motocross riders actually like messaging about it and posting stuff on their Instagram as well. AC messaged me 2 nights ago, like regarding it as well, and I was like, listen, I'm not making it. I'm just a consumer, so I don't know too much. But it's just cool seeing other people's interests in it. And I'll be honest, when I watch Supercross, I hate when they pop up showing like the newest Monster Energy Supercross game. I really do. I think it looks absolutely cheats, and a lot of new console players probably don't understand because you haven't had the ability to play MX bikes or MX Sim, so you haven't had all other motocross games ruined for you. But there is better out there, and I'm hoping that this will be the game that we've all been wanting for a very, very long time. So I really do apologise. I didn't think I'd be waffling or ranting for that long, but King, you've done a good job. A very solid track. I'm just kind of sat here spinning laps at this point without even thinking about it. Calby looks great. Track looks great. Everything's great. W's all around. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, by all means, please do drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, whatever you're up to. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.
Lynds in the zone, never backing down. Riding MX bikes, he's the talk of the town. 2022 champ with a YouTube crown. His game is tight, no signs of slowing down. Late nights, bright lights, he's chasing that fame in the digital arena. Writing his name, she's a 10 out of 10. Supporting his lane, hairline might receive, but his passion's the same.